Paris, Sunday, July 27th, 1214. At the sound of the Notre Dame Cathedral bells, the Parisian crowd attends the sacred coronation of Conrad the Great, the head of the most powerful state in Europe, the Holy Roman Empire. 4 centuries earlier, the horrible sacking of Paris opened the realm to the Vikings and precipitated the collapse of the Frankish Empire. Taking advantage of the chaos, the German kings claimed the former Frank territories, one by one, from the Alps to the Atlantic. Conrad IV completes the work of his ancestors, rebuilding the almighty state to the level of the Roman Empire. But none of that ever happened. In 886, a small grain of sand decided the outcome of the siege on Paris and allowed the Frankish kingdom to survive. Our history is no more than a series of incredible events. Every one of us can influence its course. From the birth of a 1,000-year-old empire to the death of a flourishing civilization. From the creative genius of a handful of men to a worldwide cultural revolution. From the darkest of totalitarian visions to the most horrific of great wars. From the heroic resistance of an entire people to the iron determination of a minority. The most infinitesimal of our decisions can influence the future of humanity. To know the past is to foresee the future. June 8th, 793. The peaceful Lindisfarne Monastery is the target of a raid by men from the north, the Vikings. November 24th, 885. From Paris, several hundred Viking warships are seen arriving. 9/11. Rollo, a powerful Viking chief, is granted land in Normandy by the king of the Franks. These 3 inextricably linked events are the key moments of Scandinavian incursions into Europe, better known as the Viking Age. Spring 507. Battle of Vouillé. Clovis, king of the Franks, comes to crush the Visigoth army. The warrior king is conquering all of Gaul. "30 years earlier, at the end of the Western Roman Empire, numerous Germanic peoples took control over the former imperial provinces. Among them, the Franks were particularly ambitious and ferocious. Originally pagans, they converted to Christianity under the impetus of King Clovis. This conversion made it easier for them to join the Gallo-Roman elites who were profoundly Christian. Two centuries later, their kingdom extends from the North Sea to the Mediterranean. In 768, Charles I is crowned King of the Franks. Outstanding politician and excellent warlord, his reign is a long series of conquests. He quickly dominates Western Europe. His kingdom is transformed into an empire. Charles I becomes Charles the Great. In Latin, Carolus Magnus Charlemagne. The empire is significantly reorganized. Many administrative reforms consolidate power. Ancient knowledge shines again. In 800, when the Pope crowns him emperor in Rome, all the Roman grandeur seems to be resuscitated. The Franks, once pagan, become the protectors of Christianity. At the height of its power, the Carolingian Empire is invincible. No one seems capable of challenging it.
Welcome to the memory of humanity. Every historical event, regardless of how small, is recorded and connected. You only need to change one to upset all the others. Here, we are able to control time, analyze and compare billions of events in order to rewrite history in infinite ways. The Franks were no strangers to the Romans, quite the opposite. These Germanic people emigrated extensively during the 3rd century of the Roman Empire and the period of the Great Migrations. Although the Romans began by resisting, they ended up granting them status as federated people. In exchange for territory within the empire, the Franks agreed to serve and defend it against new invasions. The invaders became loyal defenders. At the fall of the empire, the Franks conserved the remains of the imperial administration and adopted Gallo-Roman customs. The two societies fused to become something new.
June 8th, 793. Lindisfarne Monastery, off the coast of England. After appearing out of the midst aboard strange ships, a band of warriors commits the sacrilege of attacking men of the cloth. They will leave soon, their arms laden with booty, after having profaned the sacred ground of the monastery and stripped its altars of ornaments. For the European kingdom, this attack is a sad omen. This announces a new epoch, a new age, the age of the Vikings. Scandinavia, an immense territory in the ice of the Arctic Circle, is progressively colonized by the Germanic people. The numerous rivers that flow into the deep fjords soon give rise to an important maritime culture. At the end of the 8th century, commercial ports emerge. Seal skins, walrus tusks, and slaves are exchanged as currency. Relations with the kingdoms of Europe start developing. These splintered territories see a distinct political structure emerging. The Scandinavian society is built around charismatic leaders. Fight bravely and bathe the men in riches. This is what the Vikings expected from their leaders. The very nature of this system encourages fierce competitiveness and is often the source of instability. In the 9th century, many of them decide to tempt fate and embark on perilous maritime expeditions in search of fortune and fame. This is how Scandinavians going east in search of new trade routes find themselves on the rivers of Constantinople or Baghdad. Other men, called Rus, settled in and created what will become known as Russia. In 870, other expeditions colonize Iceland and then Greenland. Some tribes even voyage as far as the Newfoundland, North America, 500 years before Christopher Columbus. Progressively, these ambitious explorers notice the weaknesses of the Western European kingdoms. Their armies cannot protect the entire region. The rich monasteries are completely devoid of defenses. For these adventurers, that is all the convincing they need to switch from trading to pillaging.
Riders of the sea. For many people, the word Viking refers to bloodthirsty pillagers. However, in ancient Scandinavian, the word Viking referred to maritime expeditions in search of riches. It designated an activity, not a group of people. One was not born a Viking, one became a Viking by going on an expedition, just like one became a pirate by engaging in piracy. A Viking could just as easily have been a craftsman as a fighter, a fisherman or a rich landowner. Not all of the Viking ships had a dragon-shaped prow. However, these marine vessels all shared a unique structure. The Scandinavians used the term langskip when referring to them, meaning long ship. With an average capacity of 70 armed men, these flat-bottomed, light yet sturdy ships, equipped with rowing benches, could go in the shallow waters of any river and could even be carried from one river to the next. With large and resilient sails, these boats allowed competent seafarers to confront the furies of the ocean. These boats provided the Vikings with their main source of strength, speed, and the element of surprise. On the water, they were elusive.
Ready and crouching in the bottom of their boat, after sneaking up the river under the fog of the morning mist, the Viking warriors await the signal of their leader. No one in the village saw the boat approaching. The pagan devils seem to be coming straight from hell. The bells widely sound the alarm, but it is too late. Using rivers to move quickly, small groups of warriors launch deep raids into unprepared realms. By the time help arrives, the Viking bands have already left, taking booty and prisoners with them as they look for their next easy prey. A Scandinavian plague falls across the Saxon kingdoms of Great Britain. They land in Ireland and attack the Frankish coasts. No port, no monastery is safe. Wherever there are poorly defended riches to be had, the men from the north descend. Just after the first incursions, Charlemagne responds by establishing a coastal defense system for the empire. The master of Europe does not fear plunderers. He waits for them with weapons in his hands. His son, Louis the Pious, maintains the defenses, established by his father for many more years. But upon his death in 840, the Frankish Empire is divided. Frankish law states that the empire must be divided among the late king's sons. This initiates an extended and complex period of problems for the Frankish Empire. The numerous conflicts between the contenders for the throne weaken the central power. Divided, the imperial authority loses strength. This is a blessing for the Vikings, who watch as Charlemagne's defense structure is slowly and inevitably allowed to collapse. Divided, the empire is fragile. The Nordic packs will grab their chance and pounce on the sick beast. The rivers guide the Vikings to the large Frankish cities. Rouen is pillaged, then Nantes and Toulouse. Viking leaders gain confidence, organize major looting campaigns, set up camps at the source of the river, and do not even bother to return home for the winter. The situation is dire. With each passing day, impunity drives them to attack larger and larger targets. Even Aix-la-Chapelle, Aachen, the former capital of Charlemagne, will be looted and ravaged. In 845, the 120 ships of the leader Ragnar sail up the Seine without encountering any resistance and attack Paris. A large ransom, 7,000 pounds of silver, is paid to make them go away. This short-term strategy simply encourages the Vikings to return. In northern England, the situation is even worse. A giant Danish army has created a kingdom. The men of the north have infiltrated the heart of Europe.
No one is invincible. Based on its fleet, the Viking strategy rests on speed, surprise, fear, and courage. The warlords generally avoid pitched battles. The strong Frankish army, being less mobile, often arrives too late and can only observe helplessly the extent of the damage. They cannot be everywhere at all times, but the Vikings can. The only effective defense against the raids appears to be the fortification of the cities. But, left abandoned after consecutive centuries of peace, the walls from the Roman era are in ruins. By the middle of the 9th century, major efforts are made to raise the ramparts and build new forts. Simultaneously, fortified barricades are built across the rivers to block the Vikings from entering the land. Protecting the Seine, the Pont de l'Arche is the most impressive of them all. Built over the course of 15 years, it stops all Viking advances and protects the inland for many years. But all fortified structures also depend on the quality and number of defenders they have.
(885) Naval Barricade of the Pont de l'Arche. There are several hundred ships. The Seine is covered. On board, dozens of Viking leaders have joined forces to form an unstoppable army. The small number of Frankish guards can do nothing to stop them. Not even the various barricades leading into the city of Paris can provide sufficient defense. For the Viking leaders, Paris is just a necessary step. The main objective is Burgundy, where there is abundant wealth to plunder. But when the Northern Army arrives near the city, they notice certain changes. The ancient Roman walls, which had been abandoned for centuries, have been raised and consolidated. On the river, 2 fortified bridges are barring their passage. The city has entrenched itself within the Isle of the City, the heart of defense. The ramparts are defended and the doors remain closed. The Parisians, led by Count Eudes, are determined to fight. With the path to Burgundy blocked, the Viking expedition is forced to siege the city. The Nordic warriors immediately attack the large tower which is preventing access to the mighty bridge. The assault is brutal, but the defenses break the Viking spirit. The warriors are struck by projectiles and overpowered by the Frankish swords. This time, brute force just isn't enough. The Viking leaders understand that they should prepare for a long battle, so they have rams and catapults built. Mobile groups are also sent into the surrounding areas to search for resources. The first snow will soon arrive. The assaults, even more violent, succeed in destroying the tower. In vain. Winter arrives. Count Eudes' defenses are proving to be formidable. The Vikings are now fighting a battle that they cannot control. In early February, the attackers take advantage of the flooding of the Seine to overpower the defenses of the Petit Pont, massacring every single man in the garrison. The vise tightens. Let's put an end to this. Attacking from all sides, the Vikings launch a widespread assault. It's a fight to the death. All around, the defenders hold their ground and send the sons of Odin to join Valhalla. But Eudes knows that this cannot continue indefinitely. In the month of May, he discreetly crosses the Viking lines to search for reinforcements from Emperor Charles III. When he returns to the city, the Vikings are blocking his way. If Eudes fails to cross the enemy lines and return to Paris, the defenders may lose hope and give up. He has no choice. Surrounded by his men, he charges straight at the enemy. After a furious scrimmage, he succeeds in returning to the city. In autumn, after almost 1 year of siege, the Imperial army finally arrives in Paris. At its head is Charles III. But the long-awaited battle will not happen. Charles prefers to negotiate and offers a tribute and free passage on the river in exchange for lifting the siege. The Emperor delivers Burgundy to the Vikings.
We are now at a point of divergence. A point of divergence is a key moment, a crossroads in history where our world can swing from one side to the other. Charles III, already weakened by internal conflicts, is unseated and totally discredited. He ceded in the face of the invaders, dishonoring all the sacrifices that had been made by the defenders of Paris. In 887, sick, he is dismissed. To lead France, the great leaders from the kingdoms choose the hero who defended Paris. Count Eudes becomes King of France. If Eudes had not survived the siege, especially during his heroic return, the city of Paris would have definitely fallen into the hands of the Vikings. Deprived of an energetic defender, the Western Frankish kingdom would probably have fallen into political conspiracies and power struggles that gnawed away at it. The divided territory, at the mercy of Nordic bands of looters, would have become easy prey. Weak, incapable of filling their roles as protectors of the kingdom, the Carolingian kings would certainly have been permanently chased off their thrones. We can even imagine a pure and simple annexation by its powerful neighbor, the Kingdom of Germany. The Kingdom of France would have never seen the light of day.
9/11. Rollo, Viking leader, receives the region of Rouen from the very hands of the King of the Franks. In return, he must be baptized, swear allegiance to the king, and commit to protecting the kingdom. The warlord, after fighting in the Great Siege of Paris a few years earlier, now finds himself defending the kingdom. These new lands, which are soon called Normandy, the land of the Northmen, are strategically located at the base of the Seine, a key invasion point. In exchange for part of this territory, the King of the Franks gains protection for his kingdom. Vikings protecting the Franks against other Vikings. It's a bold move, but it will soon pay off. Like the Franks from centuries before, the Scandinavians have every interest in integrating. The structured power of the Franks allows them to permanently settle down and to establish the foundations of a strong state. They rapidly adopt the customs and lifestyles of the Franks. Soon, they replace their Scandinavian language with French. Progressively, they also embrace the religion of the empire and convert to Christianity. In the hearts of the Northmen, gods like Thor and Odin are set aside for Christ. Soon, the country grows and becomes a duchy. The skillful mixture between the Frankish structure and the Scandinavian power gradually make the Duchy of Normandy one of the most powerful and prosperous principalities of the kingdom. And that is just the beginning. October 14th, 1066, not far from the village of Hastings, England. A descendant of Rollo, William II, who will soon be called William the Conqueror, comes to confront the King of Saxons on his own soil. At the end of the day, he will be the master of the battlefield and the kingdom. William II, Duke of Normandy, a descendant of one of the Viking leaders who previously led the attack on Paris, becomes the King of England. But that is another story.
The Viking phenomenon ends in the middle of the 11th century. In a little over 200 years, they have left an indelible mark in history, a vivid imprint in popular imagery and major political consequences. Braving the most powerful kingdoms of their time, they saw the weaknesses of their enemies and deployed their formidable adaptation skills to shake up the Western world. Taking advantage of a troubled period, they played an important role in the decline of the monumental Carolingian Empire. But the most remarkable fact, from the Duchy of Normandy to medieval Russia, was the Vikings' ability to integrate. They didn't hesitate to convert to Christianity or to adopt a new language. Despite all the violence of the prior expeditions, they learned to adapt and merge with the local population, just as the Franks had done many centuries earlier. By being open to others, they were able to forge a common future.